In this lesson titled Freezing and Unfreezing Panes, we're in Workbook Lesson 08, View Options, and we're on Worksheet tab, Freeze Panes. Often in Excel, it's very useful to freeze a section of your data so that you can scroll up and down or left and right and still see that data. For instance, in row 1, I have all of this information. You might call that a title bar or a header. And it's pretty important to know what all of these columns are about. When I start scrolling down, I might not know what these numbers 4, 5, 5, 4, 2, 1. I don't know what these numbers are about. I don't remember. I have to scroll back up, say, oh yes, that's job rating. Well, it'd be nice sometimes to just freeze that and keep it there all the time. Or perhaps over on this first column, column A, employee name. It'd be nice to always see column A, even if we were to scroll all the way over here and we still see the name associated with all of this data. Well, we can do that very easily in something called Freeze Panes. And we find that in the View tab. So we go to the View tab and Freeze Panes. So let's just click on that and let's see what our choices are. Freeze Panes, freeze top row, freeze first column. So these two are kind of the description I just gave, aren't they? So let's try freeze top row. I just select that, and now when I scroll down, the top row is always there. Now I can see, oh, there's job rating. That's what this is, job rating. And over here, these are the status, their work status, I can see right here. So it always stays there. We can scroll all the way back to the top again. It's very useful. Now let's try freezing the first column. We come here and we can choose freeze first column. Click there. So now when I scroll, and I might even use my mouse or maybe my cursor here and just kind of move over, just for dramatic effect, to see that column A remains stationary. And if I try to scroll this way, I'm using my arrow keys to come this way, you see that it just scrolls back again. So I froze that. What about earlier we froze row 1? Is it still frozen? It's not. So what does that tell us? Let's click here again. When we click freeze top row or freeze first column, it unfreezes the other one. So these are mutually exclusive. You can only have one or the other. You cannot have both. But there is a way to have both. Remember up here it used to say freeze panes. Now it says unfreeze panes. So it lets you undo whatever you've done. So I'm going to undo it and then select it again. And it's back to saying freeze panes. Let's read, however, what it says here. Keep rows and columns visible while the rest of the worksheet scrolls based on the current selection. So based on our current selection, and what we mean by that is which cell is currently selected. So I'm going to select, let's say right here, I'm going to make that selection, and then I'm going to do freeze panes. So click here, freeze panes. And based on the current selection, you can barely make this out. There is a fine gray line coming down right here and across right here. And it's telling us where the break is going to be on the frozen panes. So when I scroll down, because I had this selected, it froze everything above it, and it froze it and everything to the left of it. And all of that's frozen. I'm going to scroll left and right, and you can see that that is frozen as well. So let's try again here. Let's select right here and try to think for a minute what is going to be frozen if I select B2. So you're probably right. It's just going to freeze one row above because that's all there is, and one row to the left. So it's going to freeze the top row and the first column at the same time. So here we go, freeze panes and freeze panes again. Top row and first column should be frozen. There's our top row. Let's scroll over, and also the first column. So I can go somewhere else in my document here and see that this will always be there, column A, and row 1 will always be there. And then you just go back again to freeze panes and unfreeze panes. A very powerful tool. I think once you play around with it a little bit and get familiar with it, you'll find that it's indispensable.